Let's talk out the Niners. Poll has just gone up, 95.7 the game on Twitter or X, and you can go vote on it. I don't want to jump to conclusions because when I hopped in there was like only 10 or 20 votes. But basically, the question is, what's the bigger concern right now for the 49ers, the offense or the defense? I want to make sure everybody hears us correctly. This does not mean that either side gets to escape the concern level. They both are a concern. The number one thing that you can't do as a quarterback, especially in a Kyle Shanahan system, is turn the ball over. And Brock Purdy has turned the ball over in the fourth quarter a lot the last 2 weeks. So that is a completely fair concern. He's got to learn from that. He's got to be better. But yes, if you ask me about game flow, there's no question which side of the ball, if they both say they both look bad. I don't even know if that's true, but whatever word you want to use, there's no question to me which looks worse and which one is a harder fix. The answer to both of those, in my opinion, is the defense, especially compared to what they were before. This is supposedly an elite defense. Supposedly. And by the way, I don't really buy some of the numbers that we were watching earlier in the year. I thought they had a very good game against Dallas. I think holding the New York Giants to 12 or 13 points is damn easy because it happens every week. Everyone holds them to 10 to 14 points.
That was a fun one yesterday with them and the Jets.
Good Lord. The Jets.
Danny DeVito at quarterback?
How about that? And the rabbit out of the hat 2 weeks in a row by the Jets to win football games. Incredible. But that's not all that impressive. Holding Pittsburgh's offense down, not that impressive. And I don't think the Rams' offense did get held down. Matt Stafford ran the ball up and down the field. The completion percentages of the good quarterbacks the Niners have faced are alarming. And they've only gotten worse in the last 2 weeks. So that's my vote. And the early returns on this, again, we're about 50 votes in. Now we're about 70 votes in.
Yeah.
80%.
It's overwhelming.
It says the defense over the offense.
And if you watch Brock Purdy throughout the entirety of the game and don't just look at his stats and don't just look at those last two throws, or not the last two, but the back-to-back throws, he made some big-time plays in that game. Plays with his legs. He was the leading rusher, for crying out loud.
Good Lord.
And he made a lot of great throws in the game. Now, when you needed him to make plays, he didn't. And he made a terrible mental error on the first pick. And the second pick was Jimmy-esque in terms of just not seeing a defender.
Yeah, they got him.
And throwing it right in there. And those are things you can't do when you want to play winning football in the fourth quarter. But you can't look at just that small piece of the game and automatically say, he was terrible. Because he wasn't terrible. He was actually really good for the most part of that game.
Same for both the last 2 weeks. If 3 great quarters and then messed up the fourth, and that's not a compliment.
Right.
It's not a compliment. But he's not consistently bad. Right now, to me, the defense is. It is consistently bad. It was yesterday. On almost every play, Joe Burrow did whatever he wanted. They barely got him to incomplete a pass the whole afternoon. So, that to me is a much, much bigger concern right now and probably harder to figure out. I do think this. I don't think there are a lot of you. I think most of you who bring up his name, you're doing it to troll. And I get that. That's part of our world. Okay? But people who are bringing up Trey Lance's name today, you're not really doing it in good faith. But I'd ask you this. Let's say Trey Lance was the 49ers quarterback. Let's say they did pick him and they rode with him. And he was the starter. And this was, forget the game and a half he got last year. First full year as a starter, and he got 8 games. And this that Brock has produced is what you got. He'd be 5-3. I don't even know what the stats are today. Has he fallen from second-rated quarterback? Is he third or fourth or fifth? Whatever he is now. You're a top 5 rated quarterback in the league, and your team was 5-3. What would you say about it? Because my guess is y'all would be thrilled. Thrilled. You'd be like, this young kid is getting better, and he's on his way, and the Niners are winning, and you got to live with a couple of bumps and bruises here and there. Brock Purdy is suffering from himself right now. He's suffering from himself because he went for a stretch of 13 to 15 games without losing and barely turned the ball over once. And so now all of a sudden we got 3 games where it doesn't look as good. And see, Everything that we saw before was now a joke.
Right.
It was all, the banana in the tailpipe. And so the perspective is totally changed. If Trey Lance had done what Brock Purdy had done this year,
the
fan base would be thrilled.
Second in the league in quarterback rating, second in the league in QBR. The one area where he had been dominant, he's now ballooned to 14th in interception percentage based on his recent spate of picks. CJ Stroud's only thrown one pick on the year.
Yeah.
Rookie of the year in waiting, but Purdy now with the 5 interceptions and a 2.2 interception percentage, which is still not terrible. And the 12-5 TD to interception ratio, also not terrible. He came in with a much better, I think it was 3.1 to 1, and now he's about 2.4 to 1. Still not terrible, but certainly these last few games have felt like a regression. But you're right, Mark, if it was any other quarterback, but because it's Brock Purdy, there is that flash in the pan feeling that you get because he wasn't supposed to be that good, and now he's playing like maybe some people thought that he should have all along.
I wonder if people care what a Hall of Fame quarterback thinks.
Depends which one.
Okay. What if his name's Kurt Warner?
I like Kurt Warner.
Okay.
I'm in on Kurt.
Credible?
Very.
Watches tape?
Yeah.
Knows the position?
Sure.
Quote.
Undrafted? Yeah.
Quote, those people out there saying Brock Purdy is struggling aren't watching the games. Young man is playing some really good football, making all kinds of plays, not without mistakes, but who does? Quit looking at stats. They should back the narrative, not create it. Those are someone else's words.
Stats should back the narrative, not create it.
Yep.
I like that.
Yep, I do too. That's a Hall of Fame quarterback. So, you do with that what you will. That's not somebody who's paid by the Niners. That's not somebody who's in his bag. That's not somebody who is a Brock stan. That's Kurt Warner. Watch the tape. That's what he sees.
Yeah.
So nobody thinks Brock Purdy's perfect. Nobody thinks those weren't bad picks. Nobody thinks he doesn't need to get better. He does. Absolutely. But the concern for me right now is on the other side of the football. Monster Monday brought to you by First 5 California. To learn 4 things you can do to overcome toxic stress, go to first5california.com. Injury update, courtesy Kyle Shanahan. Let's go live to the other room where Mark Grandy is standing by.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan just wrapping up his weekly conference call with the media. He has said that Niners left guard Aaron Banks has turf toe and will miss, quote, a few weeks. And Dre Greenlaw, linebacker, is day-to-day with a shoulder.
Okay, so offensive line, which has struggled, is now going to get even thinner. Aaron Banks out for a few weeks. Now, you got the bye.
Yes, and you have John Feliciano, who is a veteran who can play either guard spot. He can play the center, and there was already some talk yesterday post-game. I was talking to some folks, and they were saying it might be time for a change on the offensive line anyway, so maybe this is a little bit of a shakeup that you can put in a veteran, and maybe you can jumpstart things a little bit because running the ball, it's been more of a Jalen Moore in for Trent Williams problem. The entire offensive line has not been cohesive. They have not been moving defenses off the ball. And Kyle Shanahan's got to get in his bag during the bye and figure out how he can counteract these 5-man fronts because the last 3 weeks, Cleveland came in and we were, Myles Garrett. And then we learned about 3 other names on the D-line because they all ate. And then Minnesota did a good job of keeping the Niners running game at bay. And then we saw it again yesterday where Brock Purdy was the leading rusher and Christian McCaffrey had a fairly quiet game on the ground. Jordan Mason, he's not playing, Mark. So there's something there. I don't know if it's a doghouse. Kyle has already said he doesn't have a doghouse. I don't know what it is right now.
It's not true.
Well, he said it.
Brandon Ayuk lived in it for weeks.
Kyle said he doesn't have a doghouse.
Brandon Ayuk paid rent in it.
Right now, you've got Eli Mitchell, who barely touches the ball, and Jordan Mason has fallen out of favor. So what's the deal with the running back room?
I don't know.
Why can't you run it? Why is Christian McCaffrey the only one trusted to run it other than Juszczyk?
I mean, I'd also say this, like if you were going to make changes on the offensive line, Aaron Banks is not the one you'd replace. So I'm not going to this is not a good thing. It's not a good thing. I don't hear a lot about acquisitions at the deadline on the offensive line. I don't know if anyone's available. That would interest me. But obviously Trent Williams returning is the number one thing you got to do, and I think that's probably tracking toward happening against Jacksonville. We'll see what it looks like. But there's a good update. Grandy, appreciate it. Let's get out to the phones. Dave in Lathrop is first up today. We'll take a lot of calls. We'll get to everybody with all of your What'd You Think Monday. Here we are after yet another loss. Hey, Dave, what's up?
What's up, fellas? So, first off, you guys are talking about the O-line. I don't think Kyle has ever put a real priority on the offensive line besides Trent Williams. But what I called about was I saw a stat from Kyle Posey. Kyle Posey put out, over the last 4 games, Isaiah Oliver has had 20 targets with 20 completions, average of 9 yards per completion. And over that same span, Lenore is, I can't remember if it was like the 8th worst completion percentage in the NFL at corner. So that backs up the narrative right now that the defense is not doing their job. And I realistically think there is something going on with Wilkes. I don't think, like you guys said, our team, 8th most yardage among all quarterbacks for Lenore. But with Wilkes, he doesn't provide the same mentality that our last 2 coordinators did. He's not a fire you up type of guy. And when we want to see what you guys brought up, guys flying around, hitting people, 3 people on every tackle, that's the type of coordinator you need. A soft-spoken leader is not going to probably get that out of you, especially from up in the box. That's all I got.
All right, Dave, thanks. Yeah, I don't know if that's it, the fire them up thing. And by the way, here's the problem with that. That's not Steve's personality anyway.
Right.
So Steve Wilkes on the sideline is not going to look like D'Amico or Robert Saleh.
These are pro football players. If you need somebody to slap you on the shoulder pad and say, give him hell, kid.
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to play hard till then.
I didn't know I was supposed to give him hell. Right. I thought I was supposed to gently escort them to the sideline.
I thought I was supposed to give them the business.
Thank you. I don't think that that's it. I've heard that from a lot of people. And if Steve Wilkes is more comfortable in the booth, stay in the booth. I don't think his geolocation is the issue with this defense. I just don't.
And that's fine. I'm not going to dismiss it, but I don't think it's for the reason. The possibility of it being a good thing is not for the reason that a lot of you are bringing up. It has nothing to do with go get one for the getter.
Totally.
Let's get them down there and be there so they can see you and talk to you and you can yell at them. I don't think that's got anything to do with anything. I think there's confusion. And if his presence on the sideline would help alleviate confusion, then I think it would be a good thing. But only they can fix this. And they've got 2 weeks to do it. I don't think Steve Wilkes should be fired. I think they need to figure out, like I said, how the right arm and the left arm can start walking together, because that's the only thing that makes sense when you look at these very high-priced, very talented players. There is confusion. The pass rush and the coverage schemes are not in concert right now. And that's why you're seeing missed assignments. That's why you're seeing a high completion rate. That's why you're seeing people like Nick Bosa not get home. And when Nick gets beat on the outside of a run play, he slaps the ground because there's no linebacker behind him doing what the actual name of their job is, back the line. They are totally confused. They're totally confused. And that's what the Niners have 12 days to figure out. They need to make changes, not in terms of firing people, but in terms of their approach.
Well, it might be in terms of firing people, because this has to get fixed. And I don't know if the word confused is fair, but I see them playing a little bit slow. And this is a defense that has always played fast.
Yeah.
And if they're playing slow because they're confused, or if they're not in the scheme that they feel most comfortable in, or if it's a combination of both, that's something that has to change. Because the one thing, Mark, we've seen from Warner and Greenlaw and Hufanga, these guys fly around the field and they deliver big hits. They make big plays. Charvarius Ward has been a mostly lockdown corner, and he's been getting passed upon but I think it all starts with that front. We've never looked at the secondary and thought, oh, they got 4 guys down there locking people up. It's been because the pass rush has been so good that has put the pressure on opposing quarterbacks and opposing passing offenses to generate the sort of tougher throws to make. It's easier to cover for 2 seconds than it is for 7 seconds.
Hufanga's another name where it's just like, dude, are you out there? Like, you watch the game and 2-3 times he shows up. Other than that, I'm like, where is he? And that doesn't make any sense to me because I agree with you. He flies. He flies to the ball. He's actually overly aggressive.
Yeah.
But his name is not being called this year.
He had 10 tackles, but if you have your secondary having the most tackles.
Yeah, I don't want the safety leading the team in tackles.
Isaiah Oliver and Hufanga each with 10.
Not good.
Fred Warner had 10. You want your linebackers and your D-line to be the ones most involved in tackling people because if it gets to the secondary, that usually means that the opponents have gone for between
12
7.
yards.
I was going to say 7 and 15.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same thing. And, pressures. The team is pressuring a lot. They're 6th in football in QB pressures, but they're 17th in sacks. So you're pressuring the quarterback, but you're not getting the quarterback down.
No, yeah, under pressure yesterday, I don't have the exact stat, but Burrow was about 90%.
He was 90% on everything.
Yeah, but he was fantastic. Jonathan in the city. Hey, Jonathan, you're on with Willard and Dibs. What's up?
Hey, guys, I just want to say I'm not panicking. Not time to panic yet. No, we've all seen him be below 500 couple of games like in the last 4 years and was able come back and correct whatever needs to be corrected. But I do have some concerns, man. And number one concern is the defense doesn't have an identity right now. If they're not rushing the passer, why the hell are they giving up so much yardage, especially in the middle of the defense? Is it because of the wide 9 scheme? I was never a fan of the wide 9 scheme because every time I see him in that formation, I'd be like, why are they giving up so much gap in the middle of the defense? And then you got Kinlaw and then all these D-line people that can't get off block, and that has become a problem. Number 2, and I mentioned this to you guys, last Friday, that throw in the middle of the field for Brock, that bread and butter, it's beginning to be a thing, and they're waiting on it, and he got duped again. They baited him to throw that ball, and he did, and they intercepted the pass. So you got to be more creative, Kyle. But like I said, I'm not panicking. They need to get a covered corner in this day and age. With all the rules of the NFL, you can't touch the corners. I mean, you can't touch the wide receivers and everybody just running free. You need to get a shutdown corner. F them picks. Let's go get them.
Jonathan, thanks. I do think the 49ers are going to do something by tomorrow afternoon. But we'll see what it is. I like the idea of a corner. Yep, Brock, absolutely. He got duped into that last interception. They were bad picks.